What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Warren Hayes Show. I am Mr. Warren Hayes. Thank you very much for clicking play on this video here and watching this video, which is a SmackDown Live review. SmackDown Live that occurred on June 26, 2018. Man, I am so very happy that you're here. Thank you for checking this out on YouTube, on my channel, or maybe you just found this video standalone somewhere. My channel doesn't have a vanity URL yet. It's hard to plug. Apparently, you need 100 subscribers before you can get a vanity URL. But I can tell you one thing, folks. I'm getting there. I will get a vanity URL that we will all be proud of. And it'll be great. I can't wait. So this is my SmackDown Live review of the edition, June 26, 2018 edition. I think I already mentioned that. Quickly, just as you know, since we're chit-chatting and getting to know each other a little. Hey, how you doing? I do a bunch of reviews. There's also other reviews available on my YouTube channel. Yesterday I posted my Raw review for the June 25 edition. So why don't you check that out if you want? I got the word of the day on that video was confusing. Not the video was confusing, but Raw was confusing. It was difficult viewing. It hurt my head. Why don't you go check it out? Then you'll see what I'm talking about. And so now you have my SmackDown Live review that you're enjoying currently right now, hopefully with a nice cup of coffee like I'm having right now, or perhaps with a nice glass of wine or a pint of beer. Hopefully it's good beer, craft beer. It's important. Back your local beer makers. That's important. They're good for you. They're good for the economy. They're good for you. Adds variety as well in the styles and types of beer available. Not everyone is content drinking Coors Light or Miller Lite or Budweiser. Some of us want a little more challenge in our beer drinking, or discovery. Want to open keep our horizons open. I'll use the words; they'll get out. Here I am talking about programming, stuff that I do when I'm segueing on beer, and it's like 9:45 in the morning. Guess what I'm doing later? I'm getting there. SmackDown Live today. And tomorrow on Thursday, there along with the main roster stuff, there was the WWE United Kingdom Championship tournament that happened as well. It happened like about 10 days ago, but that finally was aired on the network. I watched both days, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a review video, a special edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show, to give you my thoughts and impressions on the UK tournament. Spoiler alert, it was really good. So I can't wait to do that. That'll probably air tomorrow on Thursday, the 28th. And today, today is Wednesday, the 27th. NXT, the best hour of WWE programming of the week. Once that's done, I am going to hop onto Periscope and give you a live review, my thoughts and impressions of NXT straight after, immediately after, like the minute, the second, the fraction of a second that NXT ends. I'll be there online. Maybe not that fast. I'm not that fast. But I will be online immediately after SmackDown. So if you guys want to join me, share your own thoughts, ask questions, have a discussion. Man, I love interacting with people. And the folks that I've been interacting with on Twitter about wrestling, man, it's been great. Lots of positivity. I really think wrestling Twitter gives itself a bad reputation sometimes. There's a lot of good stuff. I don't know if you can hear that. Could you hear that? If you hear that, and I hope you do, because otherwise that would have been really awkward, that's my dog who's digging into a couch. And, her claws are were manicured recently, so they're very, very short. She can't do any damage, but I don't know what she's doing. So apologies for that noise if it persists throughout the video. So that's what it looks like for programming on my end. Let's get into the meat of this video here. SmackDown Live, June 26, coming to you directly from Ontario, California. We start with Miz TV, who invites the Bludgeon Brothers down to join him to the ring. Feels like a bit of some unfortunate casting. Like, Bludgeon Brothers don't fit the Miz TV sit-down interview type. You know what I mean? So basically, Miz brings him to the ring and asks him essentially, why, Bludgeon Bros? Why? Why did you attack Daniel Bryan? And the guys don't really respond. In fact, Miz comes up with this theory that Daniel Bryan basically brought it on himself, essentially. The Bludgeons attacked Bryan because he said he was ready to attack the best and the brightest. It's not exactly it, but anyway, he's trying to give motivation to what the Bludgeon Brothers did. And then he tells the Bludgeon Brothers, he says, well, maybe what you guys are doing right now, you're auditioning to be like the next Mr. Raj. Maybe you want to get in on this rough ref action, man. rough ref has to happen in some form or another. You know what I was actually thinking? You know how ultimately Southpaw Wrestling is essentially like a big commercial? You know how I think it was the first edition that was for Kentucky Fried Chicken and the second one was for, I don't remember. Anyway, they could actually do like a trailer for Rough Ref with tons of product placement for this one commercial. And if they do it in the same, very ironically, it would be hilarious. I think a lot of us would buy into it. I think that's really something WWE should do here. Yeah, so basically this brings Daniel Bryan. Obviously, the Bludgeon Brothers don't want to be the next Mr. Raj or they don't want to have anything to do with Miz. Bryan then comes out and he says size isn't as important as heart, and he basically asks which one of you two bludgeons are going to fight me tonight. Turns out it's Luke Harper, and that's our main event that's scheduled right then and there. It was a fine segment. It was okay. I thought it was a little too long. I thought Miz was slightly off his game, but a Miz who was slightly off his promo game still has a better promo game than most people in the company. We cut backstage to the New Day, who are with Mr. Bootiesworth, and they're making pancake smoothies, which is actually something I'm thinking of filming, actually making a stack of pancakes, then pureeing them and drinking it and see if it is palatable or not. And then we come back from commercial and we have our first match of the night, which is Xavier Woods versus Rusev, your number one contender for the WWE title, ladies and gentlemen. Handsome Rusev. It was fine. It was a match. There were headlocks. I don't know why there's headlocks, especially early in the match. At some point, Rusev hits a big spine buster on Xavier Woods. We're back from commercial, and Woods is chopping Rusev mercilessly. Hits a big forearm that sends Rusev down and dives in for a DDT. Ruru kicks out at 2. I call him Ruru. I know a lot of people do, but I like to think I'm special. Woods tries to fireman carry Rusev, but he powers out. He super kicks Rusev into the ropes. Rusev gets a Samoan drop on Woods. Woods at some point has Rusev down. He goes to the top rope for the limit breaker. He misses. Machka kick, accolade. Woods taps. Your winner is the number one contender. He grabs the mic, gives a promo. He says, essentially, AJ, you proved last week that you're scared because you punched Aiden in the mouth. Now, if you watched my episode of Raw yesterday, you'll have learned, probably discovered something about me, and that I get really, really out of sorts when things when things stop making sense. Last Raw, the June 25 Raw, barely made sense. And we're back here again with another situation that doesn't make sense. Now, this edition of SmackDown wasn't as vulgar in making me not understand what was going on. It wasn't as bad as that. But this thing that I don't get it, because last week Rusev was clearly being positioned as a babyface, and this is where I got baffled, and I was like, oh no, not again tonight. This is where last week Rusev was in the ring with AJ Styles after he won, shook the man's hand. There was a sign of respect. Aiden English comes in, does his heel thing. AJ takes it as a sign of disrespect, and so does Rusev. Rusev sort of turns around and is like, what are you doing, Aiden? You know? And AJ clocks Aiden English in the mouth. And Rusev doesn't do anything. Rusev doesn't react. He doesn't, or he reacts, but he doesn't go after AJ. You can see he's conflicted. He's like, man, Aiden, you're my friend, and I should be punching AJ in the mouth in return right now. But Aiden, what you did was entirely disrespectful to what AJ just did. So, yeah, you could tell he was conflicted. This week, nah, he's just a heel. You shouldn't have punched Aiden in the mouth. That kind of bugged me. Something happened with the cast of Glow backstage. Lana should be Alison Brie's understudy when it comes to Russian accents. And apparently Lana and Naomi are becoming friends now. I don't understand what's going on. Just not that long ago, Rusev Day was 3 people. Sanity comes out because they are going to be doing the Jeff Hardy dress, face painted as a lizard. They're going to be doing the Jeff Hardy Lizard Challenge, the Jeff Hardy U.S. Challenge, U.S. Title Challenge. And just give me a second here. Man, the cross zooms again this week for Sanity. These in and out zooms with the camera going like this. That has to stop. That really has to stop. And I know we all have a tendency to crap on, the quick cuts in the ring. Give us time to appreciate, please, Kevin Dunn, what's going on in the ring instead of cutting every 20 seconds or so. 20 seconds, I'm being generous. But here, like right now, man, right now, the cuts that they're doing for the Sanity entrance, I cannot stand them. I absolutely cannot stand them. It's aggravating and makes me nauseous, actually. So they got to stop that. Anyway, it's Eric Young that comes out to do the challenge. I was excited for this at first, and then they missed the twist of fate. Like they botched it, and it looks like they botched it twice. That was really bad. Like straight off the bat, not a good look. I don't know. There's not much to say about this match. It was fine. It was okay. There was nothing out of the ordinary. It was good to see Eric Young go. That made me happy. And then at some point, match goes on, and then the Usos come to ringside through the audience, and you can see, the two other members of Sanity, Killian Dane and Alexander Wolf, like pointing, Oh, okay, things are about to go down, and the audience starts getting into this, right? Because they want to fight, and it's funny because what I really liked was Alexander Wolf. He was pointing, and he was smiling. He had this huge grin. He was like, "Oh yeah, man, this is gonna get good. This is what we came for." So we basically Jimmy Uso jumps in and attacks Eric Young, which forces the DQ. And then it starts getting chaotic. We cut to commercial, and when we come back, there's a 6-man tag going on. And I actually thought this was interesting, to transition from a one-on-one to the 6-man like that. I thought that was fun. It mixed it up a little instead of having everything very much in your face. I like this transition. At some point, Sanity hits a gutbuster axe handle. Super hot tag to Jimmy Uso. Like, really, really hot. The crowd was really into this. Young gets a really big flying elbow. I thought the match was fun. I thought it was a fun match. But Sanity losing, man, I don't get it. I honestly do not understand what that was all about. That was not good. You debut them with hype, have them come in last week, they beat up the Usos, and then this week they're back in the ring for their first official match and they lose. Why is it so hard to build stars for WWE? It's really, really difficult. I don't understand why they did this. 50-50 booking? I don't understand why they lose their first match like that. And it's not as if the Usos couldn't take the hit. They definitely could take it. They can. They're fine. They're absolutely fine. Anyway. Next match, we have Becky Lynch versus Sonya Deville. Becky at first powers Sonya Deville down to the mat. And they have tests of strength, a bit of chain wrestling. Becky tosses Deville over the announce table as well at some point, so it's very physical. Back from commercial, Deville is striking. She does a great takedown at some point as well. She hits a huge kick to Becky's chest, like a really solid kick. Becky mounts a comeback, hits a Exploder for 2. Mandy Rose distracts the ref while Deville drags Becky off the top rope, but Becky ultimately wins with the disarm her. And good for Becky for winning. And Sonya Deville looked very good again this week. She looks good. I like Sonya Deville, and I like that she's improving the way she is. She's obviously putting the work in. This is great. I'm glad that she's on the roster. But this was a very there match. Don't get me wrong. I'm glad Becky Lynch is getting the wins in, and they're rebuilding her cred. I'm fine like wine with that. Is this a very match? Next segment, we have James Ellsworth skipping to the ring. He has great entrance music, doesn't he? It's surprising. Real men like me stand up for what we believe in, is what he says on the mic. And he says Asuka attacked him for absolutely no reason. Listen up, babe, is what Ellsworth says to Asuka, who is not there, by the way. It's a man's world. And he calls her out. But Paige comes out instead. And Paige says, James, you've been walking around backstage for most of the evening, going to person and saying, hey, is Asuka here? Did you see Asuka? Is Asuka here? and finally finding out that she's not going to be there tonight. So this is why you're coming to the ring and acting like a tough guy. It's not exactly what she says, but that's essentially the gist of it. But she's there to announce that Carmella versus Asuka is happening at Extreme Rules. And then Ellsworth says, wait, that's not the only reason you came out here, right? That's not... You came out here to ask me out on a date, didn't you? And basically, Paige says, yep, you got me. I'm here to ask you out on a date. How does next Tuesday sound? Ellsworth has this moment of, wait, you serious? I mean, yeah, sure. Next Tuesday is great. So she says, fine, all right, I'll see you next Tuesday. And he steps out. She goes to leave the ring, but then she turns around again and says, oh, by the way, when I said date, I meant more like a match. And when I said me, I meant more like Asuka. So you're having a match against Asuka next week. That was a good segment. You know, there are many people who are super high on James Ellsworth, right? Who really, really, really like him. I'm not that sold on the guy. I understand his value in situations like this. And he understands he understands his value as well. Like, he's very, very self-conscious of him. And that's a good thing. And I think he's really the missing link. He was the missing link, or he is the missing link, depending on what verb tense you prefer. He's what was missing in the Carmella equation in this championship run. He is going to add a lot to this. So good on him. I'm glad he's back. As long as he adds to the program, I'm fine. We see Daniel Bryan backstage in a quick vignette, working out with the club, with Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows. And then at some point, Carl Anderson sort of gets distracted and starts counting his abs. And he's like, oh, no, right. And then he goes back to motivating Daniel Bryan. It was cute. And then we're down to our main event. Daniel Bryan versus Luke Harper. This was okay. This was fine. I mean, Daniel Bryan and Luke Harper are both really, really talented workers. You couldn't get a bad match out of them. You could tell that they were holding back because they're probably saving the big stuff for an eventual pay-per-view encounter that will be announced shortly. Spoiler alert. Time travel. Harper early on interrupts Bryan, who's diving through the ropes, and crushes him into the barricades. Harper gets a huge elbow on Bryan. And I really like the spot where Harper catches Bryan as he's doing a tope and drops him on the announce table. Then boots him over the barricade into the timekeeper's area. That was really cool. Harper gets a Michinoku driver on Bryan. There was a lot of Harper offense on this. Lots of power offense. Keeps selling the story that Daniel Bryan is unkillable. He's resilient. Bryan tries to power back. Harper stunts him with a big drop kick. But also the other story during the course of the match is that Bryan was working Harper's left arm. And man, seriously, Luke Harper sold his arm injury, his left arm, like perfectly. Like, he barely used it. Even at some point, Bryan does the yes kicks to the left arm, and he cinches in the yes lock on the left arm, right? I mean, that was the strategy. But then Rowan runs in, attacks Bryan, forces the DQ. Daniel Bryan wins by disqualification. And they start fighting each other. Rowan destroys Bryan with a huge shoulder tackle. And to the point where, like, I was looking at the referee who went down, and Bryan was selling really, really hard. And the ref went down to check on him. And they exchanged a couple of words. And the ref stood up and then went to his microphone, and he said something into his mic. I was like, oh no. But then maybe he was just saying, no, don't worry, Daniel Bryan's fine. Anyway, that was nasty. That really looked rough. So basically the big guys are destroying Bryan, and then Hellfire and Brimstone! It's Kane! Who comes down to the ring and smooshes the Bludgeon Brothers. He comes down, the Bros get an advantage on Kane at some point. Bryan does a missile drop kick on both guys. Kane chokeslams Harper. Team Hell No is back. It was just a little. My only caveat is that the sequence with Kane with his arms outstretched was drawn out a little too much. But they did hug, and one of the most organically over teams in WWE history is back together. I thought, I think I posted on Twitter, this is both lame and awesome at the same time. like the novelty or the nostalgia of having these two guys back together was like, oh, all right, this is cool. I like this. And, just yesterday I was complaining on the Raw show, that there's no continuity, that sometimes the continuity hurts my head because they disregard stuff. And, it was nice. Everyone was like, oh my God, it's Kane. These guys, yes, they were rivals, but they were also friends. And this is why we remember them. This is why we remember Kane and Bryan together. It's not because of their matches, it's because they were buddies. They were a tag team. And I'm like, this is great. So that counts for the awesome thing. But for the lame thing, I was like, did we really have to bring back Kane to help Bryan in this feud with the Bludgeon Brothers? Was there really no one else? Could there have not been an uneasy alliance between Samoa Joe and Daniel Bryan, where Daniel Bryan feels he has to make a deal with the devil? Kind of thing. Where he has to reluctantly pair up with Samoa Joe because Samoa Joe makes him some kind of offer he can't refuse, I mean, there's already so much talent on SmackDown that aren't doing anything. I don't know why we had to bring back Kane, and that counts for the lame part of it. Anyway, mixed feelings, but I think the heartwarming, nostalgic nature of it makes me see this, helps me perceive this more as a positive than a negative. And Paige comes out at the very end and announces Bludgeon Bros versus Team Hell No at Extreme Rules. By the way, Paige does such an amazing job as GM. She is so convincing, comfortable with the role too. Something which Daniel Bryan never really grew into, but we learned through interviews that he didn't want to be GM. He was sort of forced into the role. He didn't want to do it. Whereas Paige is just eating it up. Like, she's enjoying the hell out of herself. And honestly, it adds a lot. So that was SmackDown. This was a SmackDown live episode where we did not have some of the matches that were announced. Shinsuke Nakamura and Jeff Hardy didn't happen because Shinsuke Nakamura allegedly, apparently, rumor and innuendo, R&I, apparently got bit on the leg by a police dog. Folks, why was Shinsuke within grabbing reach of a police dog? Police dogs are kept on extremely short leashes, right? It's either, when I first heard this, that the rumor going around was that he was bit by a police dog, I was like, man, that is the most bullshit kayfabe, phony wrestling excuse. Like, it's your classic phony excuse. That and being beat up by Marines. No, but that was a bullshit answer. It's such a bullshit answer. It's Territory Days level bullshit. I don't buy it. I really thought it was a work, but he wasn't there. So there's a story here. If Shinsuke did get bit by a dog, by a police dog, there's a story here that we don't know, and that will probably only come out in 15, 20 years when Shinsuke starts doing shoot interviews. Shinsuke, tell us about that time you got bit by a dog in June 1998. It's either a really good work, a classic wrestling work, or I don't want to know why Shinsuke Nakamura was so close to a police dog. So that match didn't happen. Becky Lynch was supposed to face Peyton Royce. Where were the Iconics? My good friend at the Undisputed Podcast told me that he had read that she had been sent off, that the Iconics, her and Billie Kay, had been sent off to Australia to do promo work for their show, their upcoming show in September. But did they just decide that today? Because even yesterday, it was still being advertised on WWE.com. Iconics versus Peyton Royce versus Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch got her win anyway, but that's not the point. So there's another thing that we were supposed to get and we didn't get. And still no Almas versus Sin Cara. And again, just yesterday, Zelina Vega was still posting stuff on social media saying the match is happening, we're going to destroy Sin Cara, and instead we get an iPhone promo. It's weird, and you feel like sometimes, like right now, Raw and SmackDown really feel like they're being booked week per week, and there's somewhat of a plan, but not really at the same time. Now, I get it. Last week, they fired Big Cass before the show, and they were able to scramble and fix everything up before they were able to put everything together before the show. And last week's SmackDown was incredible. It was a really good show. It was the gauntlet match. But it really feels they're going week to week now, and it was just there. This was a filler episode. There was nothing to this show. And not only did we not get those 3 advertised shows, and I get it, card subject to change, that's fine. But AJ Styles wasn't on the card either. Charlotte Flair wasn't there either. Carmella, Asuka. Who else was missing? Samoa Joe? Like, big top tier talent that people really, really like. They were all missing in action. The Bar? We haven't seen the Bar in a couple of weeks. Why couldn't have Daniel Bryan recruited the Bar? Even though they are heels. I was saying Samoa Joe earlier. Could have been the Bar. Could have turned this into a three-way match. I don't know. Samoa Joe. There you go with the Bludgeons. I don't know, it'd be a hell of a team. Anyway. Pointless fantasy booking at this point. SmackDown this week. very meh show. Raw, I thought, was a very meh show. As much as I was excited, I thought last week's WWE main roster programming was hitting all sorts of right notes, and I was really looking forward to Raw yesterday. I was kind of excited for it, really looking forward to the new directions they were taking. Everything was really middling, and at some points frustrating, good stuff, and SmackDown is a misstep this week. I don't know. It was just there, and there was nothing exciting about it, and there was a bit of confusion, and yep. A couple of weird booking decisions. I'm not entirely all in on it. Yes, the Team Hell No reunion was cool, but I'm half and half on Kane being used on a pay-per-view when there's a bunch of people not being used. Anyway, that's just me. Folks, we're going to wrap this one up. Yeah. Not as long as the other episodes, which is good, but there was nothing for me to get really excited about this week. So remember, you can check out my Raw review. It's up on my YouTube channel. It doesn't have a Vanity Earl yet, so you can check that out. I said Earl, URL. You can check that out. Wednesdays after NXT, join me on Periscope. I do it every week except when there's recap shows, takeover recap shows. I don't do it, but I do this every week. Come join me on Periscope. We'll chat. We'll have fun. I'll do a live review straight after NXT once the show is over. Tomorrow I'll be posting my review of the WWE United Kingdom Championship Tournament / NXT UK show. It was really, really good, and I'm excited to talk to you guys about it. More excited than I was about the main roster show. So join me soon. In the meantime, find me on Twitter. I'm there quite a bit, and I enjoy interacting with y'all. Find me on twitter.com at Mr. Warren Hayes. Guess what? I'm Mr. Warren Hayes, and I'll see you next time.